Hey guys, Chen here, Saglo Companies. I'm over here at one of our shopping centers in Hialeah, Florida. That's the Miami market. Hialeah is a submarket and known for high density, a very strong Hispanic community. And this is one of the properties that actually Saglo has owned since the late 1990s. It's been renovated several times and we actually repainted the property last year. Check out the colors. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to do an executive walkthrough to let you know some of the things I look out for when I'm going to the properties as an executive inspection. So one of the things that I'm noticing right here, so this is our Pylon sign. Very nice. It's right on the road. A couple of things about Pylon signs. A lot of the cities do not like big Pylon signs anymore. Maybe they approved it in the past, but they want shorter and smaller ones and ones that are further away from the road. This one is, a couple of feet from the road. So it's probably grandfathered in, which means that it can just stay there unless there's major repairs that are needed. And maybe at that time, who knows, maybe they'll want us to conform. So first things first is that I see there's at least one tenant who is no longer here anymore. And I'll have to make sure that the property manager gets that panel replaced. We're here, Cano Health is one of our tenants, and you can see that they have a couple of work vans here. Normally, that would be not allowed unless it's part of their lease, and this is part of their lease, so it is allowed to be here. But I'm just taking note as to the condition. Are they parking within the parking spaces? And is it causing any sort of parking issue? It is Hialeah, so the parking lot's always pretty busy, and it shows, but there is parking space available, so I don't see a problem here. One of the other things that I look at is the quality of the drive aisle and the parking lot asphalt. Are there any type of big cracks or potholes starting to form or potholes that have already formed? If it's raining, then I look to see if there's ponding, because if there's ponding water, that usually deteriorates the asphalt a lot quicker and causes potholes sooner. I also look at the parking lot striping. This is something that you have to regularly do every few years, and to see if the striping is visible. If there was any type of parking stops, then I would look to see if those are in good condition or not, if there's rebar sticking out, or if there's any sort of breakage. Then you look at the curbs and see if they're in good condition, if there's any breakage. And then while you're in the parking lot, you're also looking at the light poles to see if there's any sort of issue there that needs to be addressed. Also in the landscaping islands, you're just looking at the landscaping quality to see if whether or not there's trees with branches that are overgrown that's blocking parking or blocking visibility, or just doesn't look good. And also the health of the vegetation itself. The ground cover is what they call some of these bushes that aren't really trees. And then the trees themselves, which a lot of the municipalities require to make sure that there's enough shade in the parking lot area. Because if there's a parking lot with no trees at all, it's just becomes very hot, and it's not as good for the city or for the look of the property as well. So the vegetation looks great. I think the landscaper is doing a good job, and I'll give that feedback to the property manager. Cano Health is one of our major anchors here. They actually have space on the top floor and the bottom floor. They have been here for, I guess, about 5 years now and doing pretty well. They're managed healthcare. So look at the paint job that we did maybe about a year or a year and a half ago. Let me know what you think about the paint colors. The high contrast color palettes are in. It grabs the attention, especially if the property's set a little bit farther back. So you can see the dark browns. You got some lighter blues, and then you have the cream or beige color. And then on the top, you have the what do you call this? The crown molding kind of thing, as a dark gray color. And some properties, they get a little lazy and they just paint everything the same color. and none of the architectural features really pop out. But I really like to make sure that when we're doing a paint job, that we're making sure any architectural features that are meant to be noticed are painted different colors so that they're noticed better. You can also see some metal work that wasn't done when we redid the property about 15 years ago. Some, just some metal accents. Ended up being steel accents. I think it ended up being pretty pricey. And you'll notice that we do have second floor space here. Second floor space is typically not as easy to lease as ground floor space by a significant margin. And it's true here as well. I'd say if there is any vacancy, it's usually second floor vacancy. And typically the rents on the second floor are a discount to the ground floor. And also that I would say it's true here, that the rents on the second floor are a little bit discount to the ground floor. But when you have property in a market like Hialeah, where it's very dense and there's not a huge supply of retail or office space, then that helps to keep the rents healthy and a little bit higher. One of the other things that I'm looking at would be the bollards to see if there's any damage to the bollards. The bollards are here mainly because you have front end parking that goes directly to the glass storefronts, meaning that even though you have parking stops here, if someone were to hit the accelerator because they mistaken it for the brake and the car goes over the parking stop, then there's really nothing stopping it from hitting the walkway or the glass storefront, or people for that matter. So when you have a situation like that, you really want to put bollards in as that extra layer of protection. Also, some people just end up doing these planters, more like a knee-high planter, which acts as an additional barrier for safety. And these are all the things that you're always wanting to do. While I'm here, I do see that this is an ADA parking spot, and you want to make sure that you're ADA compliant. So you look at the blue striping, you look at the crosshatch area to give you a little bit of space for you to unload and load. And then, of course, you have the ADA parking space sign itself. And then the width of it has to be certain width. While I'm at the walkway, I do look at our common area trash cans to make sure they're in good condition. Is there any ones that need to be replaced, or is there any damage? And also how full they are. So some of the complaints for other management companies that maybe don't visit the properties as often is that perhaps the portering service that you hire isn't removing the trash from the trash cans frequently enough. If you have overflowing common area trash cans, that's a common complaint that a lot of the tenants might send in. So we want to make sure that we match the frequency of the emptying of the trash cans with the actual usage. Now, this is the common area walkway or the customer walkway. We do have security cameras that you might be able to see here. So I make sure that they look like they're in good condition, although it's probably better to see if you're looking through the software so you can see the cameras themselves. And then we have what's called under canopy signs. These are really small ones. A lot of times they're hanging from the ceiling of the walkway, but we do like to have our under canopy signs. And I look at the walkway itself. If the walkway's painted, I want to see how well the paint's holding up. In this particular case, we never painted it. It's concrete, and it's actually better that way. If you don't paint if you put the concrete down and you don't have to paint it, don't paint it. Because once you start painting it, you're going to always have to paint it. And the paint actually traps in the water itself in some cases. And concrete naturally, if it's breathing, then it allows moisture to escape a little bit more naturally. Another thing with the paint is that the reason for the paint is aesthetics, for one, for sure. But most importantly, it's the waterproofing of the building. Water intrusion is probably one of the items that causes the most amount of issues with buildings' infrastructure or the physical plant. You want to avoid water seeping in to the facade that may cause damage if there's moisture trapped behind it. So the way that you do that is you paint the building. And so what I'm looking for is there any peeling or if there's any cracks that might allow moisture to come into the building. And you can see that as part of the scope or the paint job, you can see that one part of the items is that we're instructing them to seal any cracks. You can kind of see a little bit different color coming off the window coming down, and that's a sealant, and then they're painting over the sealant. Now, I think in some cases, maybe it's because of the color, maybe it's because of the type of paint, but ideally, I wouldn't be able to see that that patch job, and it just kind of blends into the paint itself. Maybe I needed a second coat or maybe even a third coat of paint just to avoid that. So that's something that I would have to speak with the property manager about, just to make sure, we're getting a good job on the paint. I'm also looking at the cleanliness itself of the parking lot and of the walkways. If we have sweepers and we have porters and we have landscaping people, the landscaping people are usually blowing the leaves. Portering sometimes does that as well. The sweeper truck usually comes in at night and sucks everything up like a big vacuum. So those are the things I'm looking for to make sure that that's getting done. For a busy property like Flamingo Park Plaza, though, where there's constant traffic, it's going to be impossible to never have any trash at all. There's just so many people coming to the property. And that's one of the distinct differences in commercial real estate for shopping centers versus, let's say, office, industrial, or multifamily. There is just a lot more people that come to retail. For example, this plaza may see over 1 million people per year. And not, or 1 million trips, let's just say. Could be the same person coming, 100 times or something like that. But there's a lot more pedestrian traffic here than other commercial real estate asset types. So adult daycare, this is a type of use category that is fairly popular in the Miami market. And what it is that it is a place for the seniors to go and hang out, to speak, to have a community, to play board games and things like that. And in Hialeah, oftentimes the grandparents are living with the family. And if they're trapped at home and are isolated, it's really not good for their mental health or their physical health for that matter. And so having that adult daycare is a great service for the community and for the seniors here. I don't know if it's popular outside of Miami. I don't really see it that often in other markets that I'm in, but it's a big thing in the Miami market. And what's great about it is that it's a good service that's needed for the community, and it's a fairly low parking intensive use. And you need to have that balance between parking utilization. So like a Subway or any kind of restaurant really is going to be driving a lot more traffic or cars to the parking lot. And then you want to balance it with uses that don't need as much parking. And that's the art of the tenant mix. Now, Goodwill Supercenter is a great addition to the property that we brought on about 20 years ago. We actually combine a lot of small 1,000 square foot spaces to create one big space for them. And they take about 10 to 12,000 square feet here. And the reason that we did that, one was that we had a lot of little spaces here. So if you looked at the property, you have upstairs space, downstairs space. A lot of them were 1,000 square feet. And then you kind of run out of uses after a while. Or a lot of times, if it's all local tenants, mom and pop type of tenants, you are dealing with some turnover. And if you have 50 tenants, let's just say, or 60 tenants, you're just dealing with it more often. So we combined, I want to say, maybe 8 to 10 spaces that are really small, and did Goodwill. And Goodwill's a great service for the market. I mean, really, they employ a lot of disabled people. They employ a lot of elderly people, and they offer merchandise at really good prices, low prices. And they're not all used clothing, by the way. They do a lot of closeouts and kind of things like that in the Goodwill spaces as well. And then there's the donations center that's here also. Some of the Goodwills also have an employment center to help people find jobs. And this one's really busy, drives a lot of traffic. And as you can see, a lot of our uses happen to be more necessity or discount uses, daily needs uses. And so, especially during the pandemic, our Miami properties, especially this property, really didn't see much of a downtick even during the COVID shutdowns. You got Navarro Pharmacy. They are actually owned by CVS now. The Navarro family sold their drugstore chain to CVS maybe about 15 years ago. At that time, they're the largest Hispanic-owned pharmacy chain in the United States, and they got acquired by CVS for a pretty healthy price, and they had since transitioned into being property owners and investors. So great job to the Navarro family. And you can see on the second floor that you have a lot of medical uses. You got physical therapy, you have podiatry, you have pediatric dentistry. Over there, you have orthodontics, you have other medical research and other dentistry and things like that. And those are all destination uses. So meaning that, look, if you're going to go to a dentist, you don't just, pass by a dental store and say, hey, maybe I should get a cleaning today. You plan it ahead of time, weeks, months ahead of time, you set your schedule, then you go. So that's a destination as opposed to impulse. Impulse would be something like a clothing store or maybe even a Goodwill where you're walking by or this Isla Junior Fashion #2, maybe you're walking by and you say, hey, maybe I want to take a look at what they got and buy a shirt because you saw something in the window that drew you in. So that's the difference between destination and impulse type of uses for retail. All right, so we're back looking at the parking lot. One of the things I do pay attention to are these drains or the drainage of a parking lot itself. This parking lot happens to be on a French drain system, which means that you have these grates, and under these grates, you have dug fairly deep a reservoir so that the water can drain into it. And then within that reservoir, there's dirt underneath, and the water escapes through the dirt and into the ground and into the aquifer. So I always like to see, is there any breakage or cracks or really, is there anything blocking it? Really, it has to be raining to see if there's anything that's causing an overflow or it not to work properly. So this is one of the vacancies that we have at the property. It used to be a rent-a-center, then it was K&B Furniture, which is a really discount furniture place. This is our leasing sign, by the way. So we went with the vinyl decal. Sometimes there's a paper sign that you tape along the edges, but I find that the vinyl decal that sticks on the outside of the window probably gets the most attention and easiest to read. You have all the necessities here. The name of the leasing associate, email, a text number, a call number, and the name of the company. Inside of the space, you're going to see that it's cleared out. There's some debris on the front side. Maybe it's blown in through blowing the sidewalks, but I'm just looking to see the ceiling tiles. Are there any broken ceiling tiles, or is there anything that has evidence of water intrusion? And then just the overall cleanliness of the space. Rey de los Jugos is a longtime tenant of ours. They do a great job. They have like a fruit market, smoothies, a little bit of food. Back to the walkway here, you're also looking at the ceiling part of the walkway to see if there's any wasp nests or any spider webs or anything that's maybe evidence of water intrusion. If it was nighttime, I would look at how well that the under canopy lights are working and make sure that it's really well lit. Actually, the cheapest and most effective way of security for your property is just to have a really well lit shopping center at night at all times. And your first line of defense is really these under canopy lights that light up the storefronts themselves. And then you want to make sure that you have enough lighting with all the pole lights. With the parking lot pole lights, that's actually measured in terms of foot candles. So that's a terminology that we use in the shopping center space. Over here, I'm looking at the storefront as well to make sure if it's clean or if it's very dusty. Some shopping centers pay to have their storefronts clean. It's a little bit, pricey, but could be worth it. One of my friends actually has a service called Pink's Window Washing, and she does commercial window washing cleaning. And so it's a franchise. She's great. Her name's Daphna. I'll drop her link below and you can give her a shout. But I think having clean storefronts as opposed to smudgy, dirty ones make a big difference for retail, especially if you're a business that does more of an impulse buy, right? You need to draw people in. If it's more destination, maybe it's not as important, but I still think it's important for the customer experience and just to feel like you're going to a nice place. Back here with a garbage can, I'm looking and it's looking like it's been emptied out recently. It looks good. The paint itself looks pretty good, even on the columns. I think that the cleanliness of the walkways are looking pretty good. There's no cigarette butts or anything like that. One of the things actually that I do pay attention to that, you can argue it's not a big deal are these A-frame signs. And so a lot of the times, the rules and regs of a property say that you can't have A-frame signs on the walkway. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one is that ADA requirement requires you to have a 4-foot or a 5-foot clearance, usually 4-foot clearance, which is already pretty narrow, but 5 foot's better. And so sometimes these A-frames can reduce that to not meet the compliance. And also, you just have to think about it. If I let this one tenant do A-frames, that means every other tenant should be allowed to do A-frames as well. And you're going to have a walkway with like 50 A-frame signs as you're walking through it, which is also not the best thing. So, best practice is no A-frame signs. If you've never been to Navarro Pharmacy, it's a really big pharmacy that's a cross between CVS and maybe like Walmart, I guess. There's like, things inside that you can buy for everyday sundries, but you can also buy some frozen foods, some perishables and things like that. If you're in Miami, definitely check out Navarro. When you're talking about ADA compliance, as I mentioned, there's a few rules that are required for ADA compliance, and the parking spaces need to be of a certain dimension. They have to be striped with a blue striping. You need to have the handicap parking sign, but then you also need to have the crosshatch path to get to the walkway. And then you need to have this tactile kind of mat thing to show that you are on the walkway. And then this one doesn't have much of a slope, but if it was a walkway that was much higher than the parking lot area, you'd need to have the ramp to go from the parking lot asphalt to the concrete walkway, not too steep. So it'd have to have a slope of less than a certain amount of degrees. And here's the parking lot sign, disabled parking permit only. And there's a fine and it's van accessible. This property happens to have a few elevators, which is also known as vertical transportation. And one of the things that you want to make sure when you have an elevator, and elevators are just a real pain in the ass to maintain, to be honest, is that one, that it's open, two, that you're not feeling any jumpiness, three, that it's been inspected in a timely manner, and that you're not overdue. Like over here, this expiration date is 2026, so July. So, a lot of the elevators that you're in might be a little overdue, but this one is all good. So there's certainly a lot of things that you have to look at when you're looking at elevators. We also have stairways for this property. Since it's got 2 floors, we have many stairways. So what I'm looking for is, one, is there any slip concerns? So we had installed these non-slip flooring surfaces to make sure we're reducing the chance of risk. I'm also seeing if there's anything weird or something I should look out for. Up here on the 2nd floor, same thing. I'm looking to see if there's any water intrusion, if walkways are clean, if the railings are damaged at all. Everything looks pretty good. And so Sapphire Ballrooms, this is called a banquet hall. It's also a uniquely Miami kind of use, where in Hialeah and other parts of Miami, you have a lot of uses that are banquet halls. And these are 10,000, maybe 15,000 square foot spaces that a lot of the residents in the community use for birthdays, for weddings, for quinceaneras, and it is a really good business. This is an affordable way of being able to host a party, be able to fit all the parking, have it all set up, not have to clean, and have it at a pretty nice place. And so this one's Sapphire Banquet Hall. Check it out. I mean, if you're in the Miami market and you need to have a party, come to Sapphire Ballrooms. Now you get a look at the property from the 2nd floor vantage point. You can see it's very busy. Parking lot's pretty full. It is actually Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning, and 16th Avenue is where we're located. West 16th Avenue, just south of 49th Street. We're on 44th Street. And so if you look on a map, and you go to Hialeah, we are just south of the mall that's there. All right, here we are on the second floor, right next to Prime Pediatric Dental Group. It's pretty busy up here. A lot of people waiting for their appointments if you're a medical customer. One of the spaces I have available is on the second floor. And what sets this one apart is that it's actually a dark shell. So the spaces that you've seen before were vanilla shell, where a dark shell, the difference is that it doesn't have an electric panel, doesn't have HVAC, doesn't have a bathroom. There's really not a lot of services here. And for you to get this into vanilla shell condition, used to be about $40 a square foot, but today the price is fluctuating. It could be as high as $80 a foot. It could be $60, and really depends on what you want to do. But because it's medical and they have their unique layouts that they want, we are not going to just build it out on spec. So we rather lease it out and then have them build it out. Over here on this wall, you'll see that we have our storyboard posted there. So that basically tells you the story, or tells the prospective tenant the story of Flamingo Park Plaza and why it could be a good fit for them. All right, so this is the back of the house of the shopping center. It's probably equally as important as the front of the house. So I'm looking at the dumpsters to see if they're overflowing. If there is a dumpster enclosure, which we have a couple dumpsters that are not in enclosures and a couple that are the enclosures clean? Are the enclosure doors closed? That's the thing with a lot of these trash services, is that they don't bother to close the doors. And what happens is that if you don't have closed dumpster doors and dumpster covers, you get dumping. But the good news here is that the back of the house here is actually gated in and it's closed every night. So we don't have the dumping issue as much. I also looked to see if there's a lot of just stuff in the back of the property, especially like cardboard boxes. If there's a lot of cardboard boxes stacked up, that's a fire hazard, and we'll notify the tenant to remove. We're also looking to see if there's any type of camping out or anything like that. We have CVS health vans. Like I mentioned, the Navarro is owned by CVS now. And then I just looked to see if there's anything that really stands out. There's a parking lot light here, looks good. And if there's any obstructions to the drive aisle. And it looks like there was this dolly that the lady's just removing right now, and we're all good. This property has a really small back of the house because it's in a really dense area. And important to do, normally I'd walk it, but just in the interest of time, I'm looking at a lot of properties a day. I'm just driving it, but I'm looking to see if the back of the house paint's looking good. I'm looking to see if there is foliage from the neighbors or power lines or something that could be an issue, if that's an issue. I'm looking to see the downspouts of the gutter system, if any of that's damaged and needs to be replaced. Looking for ponding, looking for the drive aisle in the rear. What's the condition of that? A lot of times you have semi trucks running through here, so it's a lot of wear and tear on your drive aisle. And is there any cracking or anything that has to be addressed? Also, in the back of the property, you do have a lot of gas connections. You have your water meters sometimes. You do have your electric panels or house panels sometimes. And I want to just see, are the house panels secure? Is anything loose? Are any doors open? And I think we're okay here. Also, we do have bollards in the back of the house because you have all these semi trucks and you don't want them hitting your building. Here's the gate that I was talking about. It does close at night. It's an electric gate. And yeah, one of the things with the parking lot trash, and the dumpster trash, is that really wish they would just close these doors, because it's a little bit nicer looking to have the doors closed, and it also prevents the dumping. All right, guys, so that is my walkthrough of Flamingo Park Plaza here in the Miami market, Hialeah, Florida. Let me know if you think I missed something. What do you think about the paint colors? Is there something new that you learned from watching this video? I've been doing this for about 25 years. Started off in retail leasing. Now I do a lot of everything. We're looking to buy properties. My name's Chen, President and CEO of Saglo Companies. And we are across Florida, Georgia, Mid-Atlantic, and now we're looking to buy in other states. Thank you and have a great day.